Hi, Captain Steve for this week's Boat Test Reports. Thanks for being with us today. Today's episode is being brought to you by BoatTEST Leasing, our sister company that is now offering a brand new Axopar 28 cabin for lease or charter. It's located at Fort Myers, right in the heart of great cruising waters. Let's start right in with the news. As we all know, 4th of July is traditionally the biggest boating weekend of the year, and as expected, there were numerous accidents and a number of fatalities, mostly due to drowning. Drownings that could have been avoided by the use of life jackets. As we looked over the Coast Guard's weekly accident report, we noticed a number of teachable incidents. A South Carolina Department of Natural Resources officer reported that a pontoon boat loaded with 12 people evidently and suddenly dipped its bow. 4 people were dumped overboard and 2 without PFDs drowned. The responding officer said, "I don't know if he caught a wave, but it threw some people off." The accident is under investigation. Under scrutiny will be, was the boat over its maximum weight carrying capacity? Were there enough PFDs aboard for everyone? Was the passenger weight evenly distributed? Was the boat going too fast for the conditions? Pontoon boats are designed for lakes, which it was in, but they are weight sensitive and sensitive to weight distribution. They do not have a bow like a monohull, so operators must be mindful of the wave height. When 2 men set out on Lake Murray in South Carolina, the water looked calm, but in the afternoon the breeze came up, wave height grew, and overcame the low freeboard of the John boat, which swamped and reportedly sank. 1 man drowned, and the other made it to shore. Neither man had a PFD. Not surprisingly, most drownings occur from boats like this one, but the boat should not have sunk. If the 14-foot John boat was powered by an outboard engine of 2 horsepower or more, it should have floated relatively level when swamped. It's the law. If the 14-foot John boat was a rowboat, it also had to float relatively level when swamped. There will be an investigation. On Lake Erie, the tow rope pulling a tubing raft became entangled in the prop and quickly spun up the line, bringing the inflatable to the boat and flipping the girl off the raft, injuring her. Everyone loves water toys, just make sure the towing line floats. A good line to have is this highly visible UV-resistant nylon cover over 100% polypropylene core. Don't leave the boat without it. On a bright sunny July 1st, an old 50-foot motor yacht with 5 people aboard and a dog in Lake Huron's Saginaw Bay began taking on water. And this is one of the biggest problems with old boats. Through hulls might be corroded and broken, hose clamps can be rusted through, rubber hoses get soft and rotten, and in years past, builders just put through hulls close to where the water was needed, so there were lots of them. It was 11 a.m. when a distress call went out from the stricken vessel. The Coast Guard promptly arrived, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Jeremiah Scheisel said that the 2 most important things that survivors did right was to give an accurate position of where they were and had their life jackets on. I might add a 3rd thing, all but 1 person stayed on the boat until they could step off safely. Expedition yacht builder Katie Krogan has launched its new Summit 54. The semi-displacement yacht can travel long distances at displacement speeds and, when desired, bump speeds up to 25 knots, according to the builder. She features a beautiful sun deck lounge, something unusual in this type of vessel, and she has a social flying bridge with a center-mounted helm. Her main deck galley is aft, and she has 3 staterooms forward and below. We'll be conducting a test of this model shortly, so be looking for the test and features videos coming soon on BoatTEST.com. Looking for a relatively small center console that still has the legs to run offshore? If so, you'll want to see our recent test of the Boston Whaler 280 Outrage. She's got an aft bench seat that's very easy to deploy. Joystick docking takes all the fuss out of that chore. I was able to thread the needle and bring her right between 2 other boats, and then slide her sideways up to the dock. In the center of the cockpit deck, there's access to a mechanical room, with all the batteries, pumps, and filters all within easy reach. The bow area has been completely redesigned and now includes a wide forward lounge with flip-up armrests and aft-facing seating with a pedestal table in the middle. Remove the table and add a filler cushion to extend the lounge into a large sun pad. And of course, conversion to a casting platform is as easy as removing the cushions. 20 rod holders scattered throughout the boat will allow you to put out an impressive spread to the fish, and these side trolling seats will allow more people to watch the lines while you're underway. Fishing features continue with this deluxe leaning post that includes rod holders, a sink with pull-out sprayer, a live well and 35-quart carry-on cooler. As part of the premium level upgrade, we have this hardtop that features the electronics box, tempered glass to 3 sides that include a powered vent at the top. There's a bow floodlight and 2 cockpit floods. Rod holders are to the rear and it's outrigger ready. There are also mounting points for all antennas. There's much more to this boat and it can all be seen in our performance and full features videos on BoatTEST.com. In our seamanship section last week, we discussed using a spring line to aid in docking. Equally important is the use of 2 spring lines that will keep your boat from drifting forward or aft at the dock and possibly into another boat. They're a valuable tool in your boat tying arsenal. This week's episode is brought to you by BoatTEST Leasing, now offering leases on a new Axopar. Take a look. The Axopar 28 is one of the most exciting and popular new boats on the market today. BoatTEST has sea trialed a sister ship with twin engines, but the Axopar being leased in Fort Myers is powered by a single Mercury 300 horsepower Verado outboard, making it even more efficient. It's also the upscale Brabus edition, which features premium upholstery, steering wheel, and styling features. Her cabin is fully air-conditioned, seats 5. Her comfortable helm has full electronics including chart plotter, autopilot, VHF radio, and excellent views forward. The cabin has 6 foot 3 inches of headroom and her sunroof is massive. A refrigerator and sink are below the front seats. Her cabin is remarkably versatile. By laying the aft seats flat, adding a filler cushion, and swinging the front seat sideways, a double berth is created. Swing the helm and companion seat 180 degrees and add a table, and the cabin makes a cozy spot for lunch. Her aft deck has a wet bar with refrigerator and sink, plus 4 custom seats for entertaining. Forward, there's seating to port, and in the bow, a table makes it ideal for an alfresco lunch or drinks. Remove that table and add a filler cushion, and it makes it into a sun pad. Inside the bow hatch is an electric windlass for effortless anchoring. The head is accessed forward down 2 steps into a compartment with seated headroom. Inside, there's an electric flush porcelain toilet, sink, mirrors, and storage. She's a remarkably efficient running vessel that, because in flat conditions, nearly 1/3 of her bottom is out of the water. Offshore in our test, we saw how her bow comes into play, slicing through waves rather than pounding into them, creating a comfortable ride at cruising speeds. A bow thruster makes docking easy. The Axopar 28 is an exciting boat to operate in nearly any kind of weather, and that's why she's such an able boat for charter or leasing. To find out how low-cost boating can actually be, go to BoatTestLeasing.com. You'll be glad you did. Women boaters are definitely in the minority, but that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of capable women operating our boats. We recently came across just such a woman making yacht deliveries for Oyster Harbors Marine, and wanted to know more about this talented boat handler. So here to join us is Brittany Friel, yacht broker for Oyster Harbors Marine of Connecticut that handles new, used, and brokerage yachts. Brittany, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, tell me about your position at Oyster Harbors Marine.
So I've been with Oyster Harbors for just over a year now, and I've been strictly sales. So I'm based out of our Essex, Connecticut office. We also have offices on Cape Cod, throughout Massachusetts, and up in Maine as well.
What brands do you represent at Oyster Harbors?
For new boats, we represent Viking yachts, Princess yachts, Valhalla, which is the new Viking center console line. We have Mag Bay, we sell Everglades boats, Albemarle, and Legacy.
How did you get to the position you're in at Oyster Harbors?
I've been boating throughout my entire life. Connecticut was always my home state, so I did a little bit of moving around, and then I came back home just to be closer to family, and Oyster Harbors has just been the perfect fit.
At the risk of sounding sexist, it's pretty rare in a male-dominated industry for a woman to get to the position you are. How did that happen?
I've been around boats and boating my entire life. My dad, he was the head mechanic at a brewer yard down here in Branford, Connecticut. He moved down to Long Island to take a manager position at brewer Glen Cove. He was nice enough to give me a job, and I was a dock hand to start, and then I kind of worked my way up to dock master. I had an Edgewater, a little 15-foot Edgewater center console, and I had met the Edgewater rep at one of the boat shows, and he had said, just in passing, have you ever thought about getting into boat sales? And I said, wow, I never really thought about it, but what a cool thing to do, right? He had gotten me a job up at Bosun's Marine on the North Shore of Massachusetts. So that's where the whole the whole thing started. Being around boaters and selling boats and delivering boats, I mean, that's where the knowledge and the handling skill came from.
I'm assuming that you worked with a lot of people in the industry, kind of helped you along the way. That's kind of how it was with me. I was always working with somebody that was training me and teaching me. Was it that way with you?
Oh, yes. Along the way, I've met so many people who have kind of, especially when I was younger, kind of took me underneath their wing and taught me, different mechanical stuff and docking the boat and all, just kind of all the aspects of boating.
Did you get any pushback from the males in the industry?
I would say yes and no. This has just been a natural thing for me. I've always been around it. I know it's a male-dominated industry, which never bothered me. So it never really was an issue for me.
I see a lot of people when I'm teaching, husbands won't let the wives touch the wheel at all. And it kind of drives me nuts. Do you have any advice for the wives that are in that position?
I think you just have to get in there and do it. I mean, that's my best advice. Just move him out of the way and just take the helm and go. I mean, it's important for everybody, and that's huge, in my opinion. It's important for the whole family to be involved. I think wives definitely need to put themselves out there. Take the wheel. If he's getting his fishing stuff ready, just take the helm and just go in a straight line. You don't have to start by, plotting courses and doing crazy things. Just get yourself out there. And then God forbid too, it's important just so if, God forbid something happens, it's good to know how to get back to where you came from, or how to call someone on the VHF radio and say, hey, so-and-so has happened and we need help.
Do you teach any classes?
So I currently do not. And I have been thinking about doing some sort of women in boating, whether it's fishing or running the boat or just being involved in any capacity.
I think that would be an excellent idea.
It's just a matter of us figuring out, where to do it, when to do it, how to do it. So we're working on it.
Thanks so much for joining us today. It was great talking with you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Now for some questions from the U.S. Coast Guard Captain's Exam. Let's see if you're a super captain or just a super wannabe. Our first question is, a veering wind will do which of the following? A. Change direction in a clockwise manner in the northern hemisphere. B. Circulate about a low pressure center in a counterclockwise manner in the northern hemisphere. C. Vary in strength constantly and unpredictably. Or D. Circulate around a high pressure center in a clockwise manner in the southern hemisphere. The answer is A. Change direction in a clockwise manner in the northern hemisphere. A wind that changes from, say, south to westerly is said to be veering to the west. And remember, winds blow from. It's coming from the west now. The opposite trend is a backing wind. Next question. You're underway at night and see this. What is it? A. A vessel at anchor. B. A sailing vessel. C. A vessel not under command. Or D. A vessel aground. The answer is C. A vessel not under command, which means a vessel which, through some exceptional circumstances, is unable to maneuver as required by the rules and therefore is unable to keep out of the way of another vessel. The two red lights indicate not under command, and the green light is a starboard side light indicating that it's actually underway, which could also mean adrift. During the day, it exhibits two black balls, one over the other. Well, that's our show for this week. As always, keep those questions, pictures, and videos coming. Stay safe, practice social distancing, and thanks for watching. As always, I'm Captain Steve, and I'll see you on the water.